today actually, and that might be the person. Like she had new energy. I was like, who is this?
Why she's always excited about being here.
I'm pretty. She looked like a Martha actually.
Oh, she looked like a Martha. Okay.
That was Martha.
Yeah, I'm supposed to meet her. She's taking my class next week.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So yoga.
Yoga.
Yeah. You know,
Ding ding.
I used to do Uber like full time. Like I used to go from like 3 a.m. to like almost noon sometimes. Like when I first moved out here,
Yeah.
and I used to meet some of the coolest people. Right, go go figure.
Really?
And there was this one lady who I met who was from India, and we just had the coolest conversation. I'm talking like her husband was from Russia,
Okay.
so there was a lot of culture just going on in this car ride, right? And I was just asking her, what was it like growing up in India? And her first response was, I just love drinking my tea and doing my yoga. Like that, and it just like when she said it, when it left her, I was like, I'm gonna drink some tea and do some yoga one of these days.
I mean, I'm not gonna disagree. Make my tea in the morning if I have time. I do. That's exactly my thing. Tea, yoga, or at the same time, balance on one leg, drink my tea.
Oh my gosh. So what got you started into yoga?
Okay, so I was in college, and I was dating someone, and he was this, like, and we're still friends to this day, like a really extraordinary human being. He was one of those people that would cut school to go to the library because school was just way too boring. So he was like, I'm just going to go and educate myself at the library.
Right.
And so he ended up reading all of these amazing books on philosophy and theory and history and yoga. And so when I met him, and we were maybe like 18 years old, 20 years old, or something like that, he was already doing yoga. I had never heard of yoga before in my life. But he was doing yoga, and he practiced and was very physical. He did martial arts, boxing, and all this stuff, which I liked because I like that kind of thing in a guy, like a very athletic guy. I'm like, nice. Anyway, and so he introduced me to yoga. And I was like, well, this is cool. And he showed me some postures and stuff. And I'm sure he was like showing off a little because he was doing like some cool stuff. And I was like, oh. But anyway, on one of my birthdays, and I think early on in our relationship, he bought me a book that's called Light on Yoga by BKS Iyengar, who's now deceased, but was one of the like preeminent yogis to bring yoga into the United States, into the West. And a lot of what we practice today is based on his techniques, whether it's restorative, which is what his daughter developed, restorative yoga, which is like very alignment-based yoga. He developed that. And then so I was also very athletic. I came from an athletic background, so I always needed to be physical in order to have like a nice balance and like feel like really good about myself. Yeah. And so I opened this book, and it's this like guy in like a kind of like a cloth diaper. And like I didn't know what this was. So I was like, well, what is this? What are you showing me? And and then it was just pictures of him. I know. Just picture it in your mind. Like you're 20, you don't know what this is, and you're like, oh, it's a guy in a cloth diaper, okay. And he's doing all these shapes. I thought it was funny at first, but then like when I started to like look at the postures, I started to like string them together. I made these index cards with stick figures, and I literally would line them up on my lanai, which is like a Florida balcony, on my lanai. And I would do each pose one by one. Had never taken a class before, didn't know what like a sun salute was, what Om was, what anything was. And all I knew, and I would do this every morning, it was not about spiritual stuff. It was not about breathing for me. I was just not ready for that yet. But I knew that every time I did it, I felt better. And it was a period in my life where I was starting to move past a lot of the really like dark stuff that I had experienced in life. So it was really, I needed some kind of like steady something to keep me like afloat. And so doing that really helped. And on those days when I didn't do it, I didn't feel good.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And so I knew it was something that was really powerful for me, and it was a medicine for me. It was healing for me. I had no idea why, but I knew it worked, so I did it. And then years later, we moved to Boston together, and we both went to art school together. He was a painter. I was into like 3D